Phew. Good evening, everybody. Sorry about the slight delay. Several gremlins in the computer again. Welcome to the fifth YouTube live event for the Green Tie cohort for next year. As promised, I did say I would try and get back to talk to you about how we will be opening in September. I hope that you've all received a email from Mrs. Purnell and Miss Williams over the last few days. Apologise, it should have been out on Wednesday, but again, a bit like the gremlins that was in my machine there, we had a bit of an outage with our school comms system on Wednesday evening, so it should have gone out this morning. I hope you've had a chance to read a fairly weighty document that came out, but my intention is to try and just talk through how we expect to open in September. As I usually do, I have some staff in the background that should be there to aid me and answer some questions, but please put them through in the chat bar. If you can just bear with me again, I may cover your question in what I'm going to talk about. So just I will pause at certain times just to allow people time to ask those questions via the chat bar. So we're just slightly delayed here, so I will make a start. If you haven't got the document from Miss Williams and Mrs. Purnell, if you can email us at transition@ilkleygs.co.uk, we'll make sure that copy gets over to you. But you should have received a number of different documents this morning, and I hope you've had an opportunity to read them, because some of this will make more sense if you have. I have to say, and probably you have seen, if you have clicked on the document that came from the DFE, it's a fairly weighty document that we had as a leadership team to wade through and make sure that we could open safely for all our students at Ilkley Grammar School, and that's what we intend to do in September. The only rider to that is obviously this, as it's been all the way through, is a very fast-moving situation, and things may change over the summer. So what we will ensure is that as I am talking here this evening, these are the things, this is as we expect it to be in September, but things may change, and what we would do is make sure that you are communicated, as with all the other parents in the school would be, if there was any change to our plan here. So just to give you some background, the government guidance that came out a couple of weeks ago didn't give us a huge amount of time before the holiday to try and plan for September, but basically the government were very clear that all schools should reopen for all year groups, and there was no exception to that really. But however, what they did do within the guidance is they made sure that schools had to do what was necessary to open their individual school, because obviously every school is different. We have nearly 2,000 students on site, and it's a very tricky site for us as well. So it's taken some time for the leadership team to work through and come up with the plan that you've got sight of there already. One of the important things is that the government need to make sure that we reduce the risk. We can't get rid of it completely. There can never be no such thing as completely zero risk. But what they have said is, and I suppose like some of the things that already are in place, is that ill people need to stay at home. Hand hygiene is paramount. Cleaning across the site is very, very important, and our cleaning team have worked tirelessly during lockdown to give the school a really good sprucing, and they will continue to do that when we reopen, making sure that all areas that are used, particularly toilets and that sort of thing, are scrupulously clean, and there's a rotation of that, so it's embedded in the health and safety assessment. There's obviously the government's much lauded track and trace system in place as well there, and should it be needed, then we're able to call on that, as you are as individuals too. And then some of the things that really pertinent to school is reduce the contact of different children, maximize the distance, and then that all minimizes the potential contamination of one group to another. So we took on board all of that. And what we also had to do is to deliver a broad and balanced curriculum for every student in school. So in secondary schools, that's been much more complicated than it is in a primary school. 2 reasons: obviously the number of children that we've got on site, but also the specialist classrooms that we need in order to deliver certain parts of the curriculum. So Mrs. Purnell worked many a late night to come up with the plan that we've got there. So what I want to do is just take it in pieces really, and just explain what we've tried to do. I'll start from the sort of start of the day, traveling to school, and then I'll go on to what lessons will look like, what social times will look like, what lunch times will look like, the equipment and so on that you have to bring with you for various reasons, and then also just the end of the day as well, and getting home. So I will sort of move through as if it was a normal day and what you would expect. So first of all, the students get into school. They're, just to make you aware of a couple of things, that the government guidance sort of says walk and ride if you can. So anyone that is within walking distance of school would be encouraged to do so. However, a fair number of our students get the school buses. Now, you will have seen from the letter that was sent out to you today, there's a couple of things about the buses that you need to know. The buses will be mixed year groups as they are normally, and face masks are mandatory unless there is a medical or other exemption for that young person. So they are travelling to school on the buses if they come, and they're not in the year bubbles. If you read the letter that is sent from Metro, you can see how it seems that school transport is slightly different than public transport. So in order to get the children here on time, that's what we've got to work with. So please make sure, and obviously from the 24th of July, you've got to mandatory face masks in shops anyway. So the students do need to get used to wearing those, and obviously they will need to bring them to school if they come on the bus. Just please be aware as well, is if you do use the train, that all the trains have much lower capacity than usual. So please, again, if you just get on at Benridding, we really are encouraging you to walk up to school, because it could well be that the train, by the time it gets there, possibly will full and not be able to take you from Benridding onto Ilkley. So please be aware of that, and that the trains are very, very much lower capacity. However, they have put Northern Rail have put extra trains on, but again, I would encourage you to look at their website of times of arrival and so on, to make sure that people get here on time. And then also the other thing is obviously to try and travel in a private car if that's possible as well. Just please be aware that the bus laybys are the ones outside school, and sometimes the traffic wardens are there, and they will issue you an on-the-spot fine as such if they see you pulling into those bus laybys. And again, outside school, it's a very, very congested area around Crossbeck Avenue and the top of Cowpasture Road. Please park sensibly if you are dropping off. That's for the safety of everybody, and not least your own children. Of Richmond Place there. So those 2 entrances are where all of year 7 have to access the school, and it's on a staggered basis. So between 8:05 and 8:20, it will only be year 7 that come through those gates. The other year groups follow them through at a later time. So please, we will train them on the first day, and we'll make sure they know where the bottom gate is and the west entrance. So on their first day, don't worry about it. You can come in through the main entrance. I need to work out exactly how we're going to coordinate their first day, but don't worry about it for the first day. We will get them to where we need to do and make sure they know where their entrances and the same exits actually at the end of the day are. And that is, so it's the west gate and the bottom gate for year 7. Okay, now just let me explain how the year groups are set up. Effectively, year 7, all of their lessons are in our new Marshall building. So it's the new building that's down by the medical centre, the brand new one that was just built last year. All of year 7 tutor groups and also lessons, with the exception of DT and PE, will take place in that block. And year 7 will be kept within that area for the majority of their day. I'll explain some reasons when they come out, but they will be kept in that area. We have, for the time being, relocated Mr. Leeming and Mrs. Varley's office into the my apologies, into the Armitage building rather than the Marshall building. My apologies, it's the Armitage building that they're in, not the Marshall building, a brand new one. So they will be in the Armitage building, and the year 7 office is based there as well. So the student have access to their year leader, so their head of year, and their student support manager. So we have had to rejig things around a little bit. And again, we will make sure on the first day that all students are aware of where their tutor base is, obviously, because they'll spend the whole day in there the first time, but also how they've accessed the year 7 office that's based in the Armitage building. There's obviously certain, we do have to feed the students as well, and the Armitage building does have its own cafe, and at break time that's where the year 7s will access their break, and there is also a court very close to the Armitage Centre where there'll be some outside space where the students can obviously let off some steam and get outside as well as we would want them to. Okay, I'm just going to pause there just slightly, but I just to carry on my about lessons. The lessons themselves, the students will pretty much remain static where possible, and it's actually the staff that will move to the students. Now, obviously, for the staff, that's quite a big change for us, because normally the students would circulate around the school and come to us, but it's actually the staff, because there's a hell of a lot less than us than there are of them, obviously. So to go back to the government's guidelines to reduce the risk, we need to make sure that we're minimising that contact and reducing the risk by the movement around school. So the staff will be moving, the students will be in one class, and then another teacher will arrive, for example. So if you want to look at how that looks on the timetable, have a look at the letter that you've been sent, and then you can see what a typical day will look like. And again, once the young people are with us in September, we'll make sure on that first day that they understand rules and routines and so on, and how they get around the place. The Armitage building has its own toilet block as well. Again, brand new facility, so and will be constantly clean, but the year 7s will use that area for their toileting and so on, should they obviously need it throughout the day. So completely contained within the Armitage block, the students will remain there with the staff coming down to teach them for everything other than DT and PE. PE for obvious reasons, and DT, design technology, where we need specialist space. One thing I do need to say to you, and I'm sure some of you have picked it out all the time that I have been doing these talks, I've talked about the students being set in maths right from the very beginning. And as explained by Mrs. Pennell, we're not going to do that initially. We're going to make sure that we get the students settled, so they will be taught mixed ability in maths. But by the time October comes round, which will come round very fast, we will be able to start setting the students in maths to make sure we go to our original plan, which I've been talking about. It was just a reason, to try and keep the students and get them settled in first of all, without more movement around the place. So my apologies for leading you down the garden path a little bit with regards to that in the previous 4 YouTube live sessions, but it just made complete sense to us to try and get the students used to Ilkley Grammar School, but also making sure that the maths teachers can teach the students. And we do know there's been a very different experience for people that have been in year 6, and again, we wanted to get those classes together. We can do the assessment there, and by the time October comes round, we will be looking at moving all the students into sets for maths as agreed. Everything else, as I've already said, will be taught mixed ability. The other thing I wanted to say is you should all know by now which tutor you have and which tutor group you're in, and just so you can put a name to a face, or a face to a name, shall we say. We will be releasing a video tomorrow that all of the new tutors have done, so you'll be able to start to know what your tutor will look like, and they've done a little welcome message for you. We'll release that on YouTube tomorrow so you can see it. And again, if you're not sure which tutor group you are in, we have tried to get round all of the partnership primary schools and many others as well to make sure that we delivered the message about what tutor group people were in. If you haven't got that message, again, email us in, please, to transition@ilkleygs.co.uk. And then we will get that message to you. I've just had a message there from Mrs. Pratt there. So you froze earlier, right? Okay, so gates, again, just to reiterate, on their first day, we will use the main entrance of school, but I will need to move the students fairly quickly out of that area to get them down into their tutor bases, because we don't want lots and lots of people hanging around. Well, that's for their first day. On every other day after that, they need to use either the bottom gate, which is down by the medical centre on Springs Lane, or what we call the West Gate, which is the gate that's at the top of Richmond Place. So they're pretty much opposite each other. The children need to be on site by between 8 till 5, and by they really need to be in their tutor base by 8:20. So the buses are timed to get here at that time, and Year 7 will be able to come straight in and get their way down. They may have a short time, but then it'll be straight into their tutor bases with their tutor. Okay, Mrs. Pratt, did you get that time? If that's okay, I shall carry on. Okay, so where was I? So I've done that. Okay, I'm just going to pause there for a second, okay, just so I can break this up. With everything that I've said there, are there any questions or queries? I've still yet to cover social spaces, end of the day, first day arrangements, equipment and uniform. I shall do that. So but there's any questions about why we've done things this way, teaching and learning, travel to school, arrival times and so on. If anyone's got any questions, just put them through to me now. I'll just pause for a little while, give myself a chance to breathe a little bit. Okay, nothing coming through, so that's useful. Again, I've hopefully done a fairly decent job explaining this to you. So right, next thing I've got on my list here is social space. So we've had to stagger break times. Normally all students would have the same break time, but you'll have seen from the letter that you've got there's effectively 3 break times: early, mid and late. Year 7 will always have an early break, and they will have the opportunity to go into the Armitage Cafe to get themselves a snack. And again, you've got it's a fixed price of £1 to get a tray bake, a sausage roll and a drink with regards to that, and just sort of take it away. And obviously what we want to try and do with the social space is to minimise the time that students spend in contact with each other, and also to try and kind of move things through quickly. You just have to remember that there's 315 people in Year 7, so we've only got 20 minutes or so to get them all kind of fed. They don't have to get any food. There is a Year 7 play court that they'll be allowed to use, and there's some other outdoor space as well that we will allow them to use, because what we will be insisting on them is obviously there will still be lessons going on, so the students are going to have to learn to manage themselves in buildings where there are lessons going on, and even outside as well. But it's something that we have to obviously work together on to ensure that the lessons are still working while we try and get students a correct amount of break time and fed should they want anything in the morning. With regards to the parent pay situation, and under normal circumstances, as I said, like most schools do, we would have used the thumb. print as a biometric. But obviously we don't want 315 children and more touching the same biometric things. It would take us a huge amount of time to clean it each time sufficiently before the next person is. So we are looking at either a swipe card or a PIN code that the students will use. Again, details of that, we're working with the parent pay company to get that resolved. But again, we'll get details of that to you. And with regards to lunchtime, there will be a slightly reduced lunch offer. And again, we've tried to make sure that the offer is food that can be kind of packed and not handled by the staff as such, and the students can take away. But you saw some of the options that were there. We'll make sure that there's as wide a variety of options as we can, and make sure there is stuff available for people with dietary requirements. Their lunch actually will be, rather than being in the Armitage cafe, will actually be in B Hall. So Armitage for break time, B Hall for lunchtime. And I will make sure that the year sevens know exactly where they need to go. The reason why we're doing that is because there is sufficient space up in the B Hall area, in a place called the Courtyard Cafe, where we can actually use as a sandwich room for all the students that bring their own packed lunch as such. So we can again keep pretty much all of year 7 together at lunchtime to feed them. We've got just 35 minutes. So 35 minutes to feed 315 children is going to be a bit tricky, but we're pretty good at doing it, so we will get it done. Just initially when year 7 start with us, because they're a little slower than the other year groups, we often do give them a little bit of leeway and take them out of lessons just slightly earlier, just so they can get used to the queuing system and our systems of collecting the food and eating. So we will do that probably. We usually do that for about half a term, maybe because we've got other year groups coming in behind them. It might be a little bit easier this time anyway, I'm thinking, to get the students done, but we'll make sure that they get time to get their lunch, eat their lunch before they go back into lesson. Okay, I've just got a question there. For the school bus, how do we pay? Is this part of parent pay or separate? Mr. McCavan, it's separate. You contact Metro, and Metro will give them, depending on where you live, you get a subsidised or free travel pass from Metro. So contact Metro. There's a form to fill in, and you fill it in directly with them. The school buses and the trains obviously are nothing to do with the school effectively. It's a private arrangement between you and Metro. So they're not school buses in the old-fashioned way. They're not our buses. They actually just service the school. So contact Metro. All the details are there, and the children get a photocard travel pass that's allocated to a certain bus, and they just show that to the driver, who then lets them on. Once they're used to doing it, the driver knows who they are, and they barely even show the pass too much. Really, they just sort of say good morning to whatever the driver's called and just get on. They get quite a good relationship with each other. Okay, and then lastly, about normal arrangements for the day, is the end of the day, and the students will leave their lessons slightly earlier, at 2:50 on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and on a Wednesday at 2:25, because obviously we have that slightly shortened day I explained about last time, on a Wednesday, where we have only 5 lessons rather than 6. So what we will do there is, a member of staff that has that class at the end of the day will escort the students to either the bottom entrance if they're going straight home, or the west entrance if they're going to a bus, and the students will be able then to go and queue, and we will wait with them there until the buses arrive. To be honest, most times the buses have actually arrived at school by 10 to 3 anyway, so they can get onto the bus, waiting for obviously the other year groups to finish their classes, because year 11 won't finish until 10 past 3, so there will be a little bit of time, but we'll ensure that the staff there to make sure the students are okay. I mean, if they actually finish their lesson at 10 to 3, by the time they've got down to the West Gate and onto the bus, year 10 and 11 and under the other year groups will be kind of finishing their lessons. The buses tend to leave at about 3:10. We might just need to push that up to 12 minutes past or something like that in order to get the students on the way. So please, again, just make sure that the student is aware of how they're getting home. I obviously have to leave that entirely in your hands, but we will make sure that the students are looked after before they get onto the bus, and there's enough staff out there. I'm out there most evenings anyway to make sure that the buses get away on time, and the students are all aboard them. So that's what we shall do. Just another few things. There will be no assemblies, which is why I'm being a little guarded about how I'm going to do the first day, because normally I would put them all into B Hall and give them a normal assembly. As you can probably all imagine, I can't put all of the students together like that. So we're going to have to remotely do that. So that my plan is at the minute is to get them into their tutor bases. I just need to finalise the details of that. There are no staff meetings, there are no staff briefings. Again, we've got to do all that remotely. We can't have large numbers of people together. I will confirm the first day arrangements as they stand. The first day arrangements is that the students need to be arriving for 8:20 on that first day, please. So as it would normally be, by the front entrance. We will start getting the students away at that time. I won't allow them to hang around. I'll get them down to their tutor bases. If there is any change to that date at all, or any times and so on, I will let you know. What happens on that day is they basically spend a day with their tutor. They get a lesson about their iPad. They get to pick their iPad up. We give them some messages about how to look after their iPad. There's lots of routines that we need to do. We need to talk to them about fire drills. We need to talk to them about how to queue up for lunch and so on, where to go for the toilets, where the west entrance is and so on, all the things that you would expect to do. There's only year 7 on site that day, apart from the year 12s do come in to meet their tutors. So it's just year 7 that day, and the priority is them. They soon get used to it, believe me, they really do soon get used to our routines. And we will look after them absolutely to make sure they have a really good day. Hopefully they come home and having a brilliant day with a new iPad in their hand, ready to do the next day. When the next day on the Tuesday, all of the students will arrive. So really that's kind of D-Day to some extent, really, where all the students will arrive on site. You will have noticed on the letter, I hope, that there is, we're not allowed, we're trying to minimize the sharing of equipment. So there's a bit of a bigger list of equipment that we would like the students to bring, obviously to try and minimize that contact situation that the government wants us to do. So please, can you just check down that list, and where you can, make sure you've got as much of that equipment in their bag, named as well, because there's an awful lot of equipment around. So please make sure that they name it, and we're going to be telling them that they must not share their equipment. They need to use their own equipment and nobody else's. It is a bit more of a substantial list than there was on the New Beginnings booklet that I sent earlier in the year, but obviously we were planning that before we knew where we are now. So please just check down that list and make sure that you've got everything in place. There's a couple of extra things there about a power pack and the DT equipment and so on is really the extra bit that's in place for us, for you this time. And then there's been a few questions about uniform as well. I don't know if you took the time to read the DFE guidelines, that it will be full uniform. The government expects us to, for a number of reasons, but they want us to start in full school uniform. So if you can make sure that you use our uniform suppliers and make sure the students are in full uniform. I actually, from my point of view, I really do think it's a much better for their first day, where they do start to really feel like Ilkley Grammar School students. So that's what we'll do. I hope I've summarised everything. I hope that I've summarised everything that is contained in that very, very weighty document that you've got. But I'm very happy to stay online here. I've talked for half an hour there. I'm very happy to stay online. I can see some questions are coming through now. So please just just start pushing those questions through, and I will answer them as best I possibly can. So will IGS be bulk ordering calculators as last year? Mr. Tomlin, I will have to check with the maths department on that. I think we usually do, because we get obviously a discount on them. So I will check with the maths department, and I will make sure that that is available. They won't need a calculator for that first day anyway, so I will confirm that in my communication with you, because we as staff are actually in on the Thursday and Friday before the Year 7 start, so we've got some time to sort of sort out any issues like that. But I will check, and I'll get Mrs. Varley to put something out if IGS are doing it. I'd be surprised if we don't, because obviously the economy of scale issue is useful. Mr. McCavan, where do you get the green ties from? From the uniform suppliers. There's two uniform suppliers. The details are in the New Beginnings booklet, and they're also on the website as well. There are two uniform suppliers. I believe, from parents speaking to them, I believe they've all been very, very good about making sure that uniform is available. I think there's been some home deliveries and all sorts. So I do hope that I certainly know the two chaps that run the uniform companies, and I know they're really going above and beyond to make sure they get it. So if you get them from the uniform suppliers, Mr. McCavan, okay. Anything else? Just buzz it through. It's probably your last opportunity to talk to me before I send anything through. If you have questions over the summer break, are we able to contact you by emails? Yes, Mr. Kirby, absolutely, Mr. Pickering. Please use the transition@ilkleygs.co.uk email address. I genuinely do not know the answer to that question. I will again make sure that I check with the PE team. It's a huge part of the school, clearly. It's just the mixing of the groups is something that would be something that the PE staff, I would very much hope that there will be school clubs running. I just think there might be a trimmed down offer, and rather than where we would normally put Year 7 and 8 together, clearly there'd have to be either 7 or 8 going on. So yes, I believe there will be school clubs running, but again, I will check that for you, Mr. Pickering. Anything else, please just buzz them through. I really want you to take this opportunity to ask anything I can, anything I can do to alleviate any issues in September. I'm very happy to. Okay. I suppose just to finish up, really, I mean, I hope you've found these events useful. They are recorded, so you can watch them back. So if there's anything that you missed, I know some people do tend to watch them back, probably because they can shuffle through the boring bits, I suppose, from me. But listen, I will ensure that, as I said right at the beginning, these are the guidelines. Sorry, this is how we expect to open in September. If there is any change of that, as you know how fast moving this situation is, we will make sure that we confirm that to you all. I am really looking forward to meeting your children. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all at some point as well. And hopefully these regulations that we've got in place do resolve, and the school can go back to the normal way of working, and that will be a great day for us all, hopefully. First day, how do they pay for lunch? Mr. Pickering, I think it's on parent pay, but we're not, I wouldn't say we give you a free one, but we obviously getting the students used to, we get the students used to getting their lunch. So don't worry too much about the first day, because we've got to get parent pay details out to you. So don't worry. All I'll say is don't worry about the first day for lunch. We will make sure that they're sorted, and because we have to actually get the accounts open on the first day. One of the things we'll have to do is make sure the students have got a card. So don't worry about the first day. It will be fine. Mrs. Varley's there. She's saying a transition email will be staffed over the summer. Lucinda Scott, how do I find out the teacher's name, please? You should have had a letter. If you haven't had a letter, email at transition and we'll let you know. Just as Mrs. Varley said the same thing there, it's just popped up. And that goes for anything. If you've got any questions after this, please just email us in. Okay. Keep them coming. Any other questions? Listen, that's what I'm not sure if you are aware of some of the things that have been going on. The Boy 87 book work seems to have gone particularly well. The students are heavily engaged with it, and our English team are really into that. If they've not watched the video from Mrs. Romanowski, one of our English teachers, then please do. It's really great that all the children have read the same book. So we're really looking forward to how that kind of works going forward, and our staff are intending to add real value to that reading when they join us in September. So that will be great. The other thing that is interesting for you to know is every tutor in Year 7 will teach their tutor group. If you've got a maths teacher as a tutor, they will teach you maths. If you've got a Spanish teacher as a teacher, they will teach you your MFL. If you've got an English teacher, they'll teach you your English. The only exception is one of the teachers is a PE teacher, and he will only teach the boys' side, unfortunately, because he's a male. So that's the only group that will not get things. But as I said, they've done a super little video for everybody, and I will get that put up as soon as possible, so you can all put a face to the names that you have there. Okay. Anything else, anybody? Okay, well, listen, I've talked for 40 minutes there, so if you, I'll sort of call a halt to it there, really. I'll stay on for a few more moments just to check any last questions come through. If not, have a wonderful summer. I think we've all very much deserved a summer break. I know how hard our teams have been working, and our students, and I can only imagine it's been the same at the primary schools as well. So make sure you all have a restful and safe holiday, and we will see you all on the 7th of September, and ready in your Ilke Grammar School uniform, green tie, all ready to go for the next phase of your school life and educational career. So thank you all, and I hope you found that useful. Okay. Okay, I'm going to end the stream now, so thank you all. Bye-bye.